Hey guys, I hope you guys are having a good evening. Thank you for joining me, Garrett O'Brien, on Rewired the Show. I'm coming to you live on YouTube, and also, you could follow my Instagram, follow my Facebook, and all that fun stuff, just to catch updates and check out what's all going on. It was kind of a interesting situation as far as how I came to the topic of all or nothing thinking. This past couple weeks, well, last week I actually had a lot going on in terms of mentally, in terms of physically, in terms of stuff that I was just dealing with, as far as the acting, as far as work, and just all that stuff. And before I get started, I probably should make sure my phone's on silent because you don't want your phone going off when you're doing a live show. But anyways, I've actually been. It's funny because every time I do a topic, it seems like that's what I've been dealing with the entire week, and this past week and a half, 2 weeks, I thought about all or nothing thinking, and I was just like, I need to do a show about this because it's interesting because you can say till you blow in the face that you will never ever do all or nothing thinking or anything like that. But when it comes down to it, when you're done, you're done. And I've had shows about this where I talk about, if you're done with certain things, maybe it's best to turn your back and whatnot. And that's not what I'm thinking, what I'm saying as far as, all or nothing thinking. When I'm talking about when I say, turn your back on something like that, you actually got to sit down and think about, what you're going to be doing to leave the situation or deal with that. Sometimes it has to be that way, but sometimes, all or nothing thinking can actually get you in a lot of trouble. It's all or nothing thinking is a negative thinking pattern. Basically, it's common in people with panic disorder. It's common with people with depression or anxiety related issues. I myself suffer from, well, I don't really suffer. I live with depression, major depressive disorder. I've dealt with anxiety, stuff like that. But I've also found ways to learn how to cope. I've also, talked to therapists and stuff like that on figuring out ways to get through the things that I've gone through in a healthy way. But I mean, it's one of the biggest negative thought processes that we actually go through. It's also known as a cognitive distortion. Basically, they're like I said, they're common with people with anxiety and depression and other kind of disorders, stuff like that. You basically, I mean, in a way, it's like it's not a medical term, so don't quote me on that, and it's not a diagnosis or anything like that. So just so we're clear, if you look at bipolar, I'm not talking about bipolar disorder or anything that has to do with that disorder or anything like that. But what I'm talking about is two extremes. You have your happy-go-lucky, you have your completely miserable, done, I want out. That's kind of how someone with all or nothing thinking, has. It doesn't mean they're bipolar, it doesn't mean they're OCD, it doesn't mean anything like that. So please stop self-diagnosing yourself and really just, take the information that you have in front of you and sit down and just think about it. It can be everything that we view of our, everything that we have a view of ourselves, to our life experiences and stuff like that, which brings us to all or nothing thinking. All or nothing thinking. I'm gonna have to slow down when I say that because I'm just stumbling over the words. But it's like in terms of black and white. Some things are black and white. For example, cheating is wrong. I mean, that's just it's probably a horrible example, but I'm just saying cheating is wrong. If you're looking at everything being divided in black and white, I mean, there is no gray area or anything like that. My dog is running around here, so he's just hanging out. But one of the I have a small list of do's and don'ts when it comes to all or nothing thinking. When you, a good do is recognizing your strengths. If you recognize your strengths, write down every strength that you have. Have that in a location where you can see it daily, so that way you keep reminding yourself that you're a strong person. And that's the thing, is you got to remind yourself that daily. It's not just one of those things you're going to wake up and think it every single day. You're going to have to remind yourself every single day that you're a strong person. Another thing that is a good thing to avoid all or nothing thinking is understand that setbacks can happen. Life is not perfect. The day to day that we go through is not perfect. It's not exactly how we want to, it's not, it doesn't really end up the way that we want it most of the time. And that's okay. You just have to realize that there's going to be setbacks in your life. There's going to be setbacks in some of the things that you do. And in doing so, find the positives in the situation. It's really hard to do. I know this from personal example, or for personal experiences. Finding the positive in situations when you don't want to find anything positive about anything. I mean, I've been like that for the past couple days. I've chose to stay in this, not really giving myself any room to see the opportunity that has been going on in the past couple days. And that's why it's important to find the positive in everything, because if you find the positive in everything, that negative thinking, that stinking thinking, that saying that's going flying around, that doesn't come into play. You're always thinking about something else, and here I go with the yawning again. It's been a long day. It's been a long week. It's been a long month, but we're getting through it. So some of the don'ts that I'm going to talk about as far as all or nothing thinking is, do not focus on your faults. You focus on your faults, you're looking inward. And when you look inward, that's when all the selfish stuff comes. That's when all of the negative thinking comes. We are super critical of ourselves. And in doing so, we tend to talk ourselves out of a lot of things. We tend to talk ourselves into some pretty bad things. So do not focus on your faults. Sorry about the yawning. Oh my gosh. This seems to always happen. But that's all right. Another don't is, do not dwell on self-defeating thoughts. Self-defeating thoughts are basically telling yourself that you're giving up, that you're going to give up, that it's just too hard, that it wasn't going to work to begin with, so it might as well just give up and be done with it. Don't dwell on those self-defeating thoughts, because that will ultimately lead you to all or nothing thinking. Do not use unconditional terms such as never or nothing. The reason why is because never and nothing are basically sealing and shutting the door on any opportunity you have. For example, how I got into my acting. I realized that, there's going to be setbacks in it. I realized that I'm probably not the best person for some of these roles. But however, if I started off saying I'm never going to get a role in anything, I basically just shut the door on opportunities that are there. Or nothing is going right in my life. That's another one that you don't say that, because you're alive, you're breathing, you have the opportunity to bless somebody else. You have the opportunity to receive blessings from some other people, whether you see it or not. So, all right. I really need to do my show earlier, or not work before I do it. But this is kind of how it goes. So, all or nothing thinking and panic disorder. People with panic disorder are very susceptible to all or nothing thinking. Um, if you have frequent panic attacks, you may view yourself unworthy or inadequate because of your condition. I can say from a personal experience, just from my depression alone, I've put myself in this category where I'm not good enough to be with a certain person, or I'm not good enough to fill that certain role. I'm not good enough to be in a situation. I'm not good enough to do a show to tell people how to get through coping with PTSD, depression, anxiety, you name it. But here I am, and that's what I mean, by uh, pushing through it and reiterating the strengths in you. I may not, I'm not gonna lie. I woke up today wanting to. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. I need more sleep. I'm not gonna lie. Sleep is great. I haven't been getting enough of it, but that's okay because I'm here with you now, and I am not gonna go anywhere. Um, but basically, view yourself as adequate. View yourself as worthy. Don't ever. I'm gonna get through a thought without yawning. I promise. um, don't ever think you are inadequate for anything. This world is filled with so many possibilities. Do not do not shortchange yourself by saying that you can't do it, or I'm not good enough to handle it, or I'm not good enough to be this person. You are. It's gonna suck to get there, and you're gonna struggle to get there, but it's worth it. I can promise you that. I can tell you that. So I'm gonna give you some examples of some all or nothing thinking. So see if you can identify anything about this. See if you can, recognize in your own way of thinking for these examples. Um, Basically, this is written down. I forgot where I got it from. I'm gonna have to get the reference for you. But basically, it says Roger recently decided to check on his anxiety, and ask somebody out on a date. Left her a message. Few days go by, he hasn't heard back from her. Think about that for a second. If you are that person that has called that person and they don't respond right away, do you look at it as it's never going to happen? I'm just not good enough. I'm not going to be the right person for that person. Or have you thought about it as maybe they're busy and they just didn't have time to check their messages. Maybe they have something going on. I hope they're all right. Maybe they, God willing, they didn't get into an accident or are sick or anything like that. But you have to look at it, with this one example, look at it as if you're in somebody else's shoes. Because that all or nothing thinking is actually just that. It's all about me, me, me. Where when you're not doing all or nothing thinking, you're actually thinking about the other person and what's going on with them and looking at it at a big picture. It's not such a small picture. It's not just what you have right in front of you. It's what you have going on all around you. And, it's similar with someone being diagnosed with cancer. A person that gets diagnosed with cancer, and I'm not saying that, well, basically, there's two types of people that are diagnosed with cancer. People who are giving up everything and willing to just give it up and go, and people who are going to fight and push through it because they see a light at the end of the tunnel. It's the same with that. And when you're sick or you have something going on in your life and you're like, I'm just gonna go. I'm done. I don't want anything to do with this. I just want out. That is all or nothing thinking. um, and it could be deadly. A lot of people who attempt suicide, I for one, which I've attempted about 6 times, I used to think this way. I used to think that nothing's ever going to change, nothing's going to get better. It's just going to keep coming. It's just going to keep piling on. And you know what? 6 attempts later. Ha! Okay, with the yawning again. But 6 attempts later, I would have never thought that I would be an actor. I would never have thought I'd be doing this show. I would never have thought I would be where I'm at today. I would never have thought I'm with the woman that I'm with. And it's pretty powerful the way that we talk to ourselves. And it's just it's one of those things that people usually underestimate when it comes to thinking and stuff like that. So basically, moving on. You gotta learn to replace those negative thoughts. Those negative thoughts are stuff that they're in your head constantly. They're when something happens. Oh my gosh. Okay. I need to get some coffee or something because this is driving me up the wall. I need to get a French press. That's what I really need to get. But anyhow, replacing negative thoughts. Rather than finding the middle ground in a situation, in any kind of scenario, the situation and scenario where the dude who was calling that one lady and that I just told you, the dude who called the lady and left a message and she didn't call him back within 3 to 4 days. That right there, I mean, if that person thought that I'm not good enough, I'm going to stop pursuing that, what kind of relationship what had he had if he would have kept pursuing her? He can, in that situation, you can replace the negative thoughts and the self-deafening thoughts or self-defeating thoughts with more realistic ones. And being more realistic is what you have all around you, not just what's in front of you, but outside the box, from the other person, sitting in the other person's shoes. And once you learn to shift completely from that side of everything, where you shift from I'm not good enough to maybe something's going on, maybe she has something going on, maybe he has something going on, maybe there's a problem with the phones, maybe there's a problem with this. I'm just going to be patient. Thinking like that is a healthy way to do that because you're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking about the other person, and what they're going through. And that can actually open up so many more opportunities for you further down the road because we can't see the future. We can't see what's going to happen tomorrow or the day after that or the day after that. I mean, we don't even realize what's going to happen an hour from now. And I mean, we have it planned, but the thing is that plan can change like that. And it usually does, if you're not careful. So, your immediate thoughts, that's the best way to judge what type of thinker you are. Is when something happens, what's your immediate thought? What are you looking at when it comes to the situation at hand? Say for a car accident, you're stuck in traffic, you're getting upset. I mean, I'm going to be late for work. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Do you think like that? Or do you think, I hope if there's an accident up there, I hope somebody's all right. I hope nothing's all right. I hope it's just regular traffic and nobody's hurt, stuff like that. And you actually calm yourself down and you stop stressing out and you stop bringing in anxiety and you learn how to calm the panic down. And it's really important to replace those negative thoughts. And like I said, it's hard to do. I've had, um, I've talked about it before. Oh my gosh. uh, One of these days, I'm gonna have a show. I promise, where I'm not gonna yawn. I promise that. All right. So replace those negative thoughts. In order to overcome all or nothing thinking, it is to avoid. It's very important to avoid the negative thinking itself. Negative thinking can get you in a lot of trouble. Um, Take for example, you're working in a job. I thought this the last week. And this is part of my stuff, my journey, my struggle, and stuff like that. But I thought this last week where I wasn't casted for something, and I wasn't even helping, directing or anything like that. And the initial thought came to my mind, well, great, I'm being written out. And I recognized at that moment, where is this coming from? What is causing myself to be in this rancid mood, to be the point to where I'm completely willing to just walk away from everything, not understanding the other side of it. So, open communication, that works great. Um, if the other person isn't communicating with you, it's not the end of the world. Oh, okay. All right. But it's not the end of the world. I promise you, I'm not bored. Um, Sleep. I crave sleep. Sleep is good. Sleep is my friend. Just haven't been getting enough of it. All right. So, replacing that negative thinking in the situation that I had was difficult for me to do because I wanted nothing more than to be angry. I wanted nothing more, and to be justified in my anger, in that stuff. But the thing is when you think like that, you lose sight of the potential that you have for something else. And recently I declined a role for a certain character in a movie. I thought about this for a few days, and it wasn't just a split judgment, on the thing, but it went against something that was dear to me, and I was struggling with it. And I understand it's just a role, it's just one of those things. But the thing is, though, is it sat really uncomfortable with me, and I had to decline. And once finding out, what everything was about, I felt really uncomfortable moving forward with that, and that's okay, because there's going to be more opportunities down the road. If there's not, then maybe this door is shut for a reason. But if so, the opportunities that are there, are still screaming. And that's what I mean. I could have, I'm not gonna lie, I was in a pretty rancid mood the past couple days, and being in that mood, I probably missed a few, 3 or 4 blessings, and that it definitely affected, tips that I got with the restaurant or the theater that I work at, and it definitely affected how I responded to everyone else. Internal thinking, all or nothing thinking can do this to you. All or nothing thinking can get you to a point to where you are shutting everyone out trying to help you, and focusing on, why is no one trying to help me, when you can't even see the people trying to help you. And that's why it's important to double check and look at all that stuff, because it's really hard to focus on other things, and it's really hard to focus on things outside of yourself. But it's possible, and if you do it, you're going to be a lot happier. So I have some other tips to correct your all or nothing thinking. You could take them, you can leave them, you can do whatever you want with them. I'm just here to give information. I'm just here to, speak from my own personal experiences and the trials and journeys that I go through in my life. hopefully to help somebody else. Um, so some of the tips, I've already talked about a lot of them. But one of the biggest ones is avoid the unconditional terms of nothing and never. Because like I said, I'm never gonna to amount up to anything. I'm never gonna be this person that you want me to be. I'm never gonna make that decision that could, rise up and put me to a point. I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do that. Nothing is gonna work for me. You see how heavy that gets on you when you start repeating all that stuff. That is one of the tips that I want to leave you guys with, is to correct that. Avoid that kind of thinking. Try this. This actually worked for me. It was hard to do, especially on rougher days. But when you are left with a fork in the road, sit back and just sit on that for a couple days. If you have time to sit back on that, really evaluate both roads that you potentially are going to be taking. Don't make any rash decisions, because that's part of all or nothing thinking. All or nothing thinking. Rash decisions will get you in trouble. Keep an eye. When you have a thought, write it down. Just so, if you're not good at noticing that you are thinking black or white, write a thought down and go back to it later and just read all your thoughts that you had for that day, and get a good inventory on what kind of thinking you have. So notice when you are thinking in black and white extremes, and ask yourself, is there any possibility for a gray area? Having a gray area is great, because like I said, that's when you come to that fork in the road, that's that gray area. It's either this way or this way. Don't just make a rash decision and be like black or white. Okay, this way. Don't do that, because that's all or nothing thinking. Really sit back, really meditate on your decisions, really meditate on the information you have, and focus on the positives on this way or that way. Which leads me into try to find a positive in every situation. The positive I have with the situation over the past couple days is this right now. I'm doing a show. I'm helping myself get through the way I've been thinking. And what better way to help not only yourself, but you're helping other people, because you're in the moment and you have these thoughts and they're just right here in the front of your brain, and you're reading the information, or you have the information and you're talking about it. It can really open your eyes. When you can only see, this is a big one, a tip. When you can only see one side of any situation, it can help to seek out support of a trusted friend or family member. Having a strong support network is very important. Because they can, especially people who are willing to hold you accountable. It's good to be held accountable. It's tell me when I'm doing something wrong. That's what I ask my friends. If I'm doing something wrong, tell me. Don't be afraid you're going to hurt my feelings. Tell me when I'm messing up, so I can correct it, because obviously if I'm messing up, I'm not seeing it from my perspective. They're seeing it from their perspective. So make sure you have good friends and family members that are willing to hold you accountable, and likewise, hold them accountable as well, and let them know, if you're going to hold me accountable, I want to hold you accountable as well. It's a 50-50 thing in any relationship. You got to give 50 and you got to take 50. So it's every situation, is a give and take situation. So, if you have a friend or a family member you do this with, make sure you're giving into that relationship as well. So that is all I have for tonight. I appreciate you guys coming on and checking out my show. It'll be on YouTube for however long it's stuck on YouTube. And I will see you guys next week. Again, follow me on Rewired the Show on Facebook, Garrett O'Brien Official on Instagram, and Rewired the Show on Twitter. Also, check out theheritagetheater.com. I've been working on that website. It's the Heritage Theater that I work at. It's the Heritage Theater that I act at. It's the Heritage Theater that I direct at as well. And lots of big things are coming. Check out the website. Check out the Facebook. Gizzy, she's also a veteran. And, it's a veteran-owned business. And she is also a combat veteran dealing with PTSD as well. So she's been a good, support for me as far as getting through a lot of my PTSD stuff because she's been through it too. Again, have somebody in your life that can hold you accountable. And I have a phenomenal, amazing girlfriend who looks at the good in everything. And, I let her know when I'm having a bad day. And the thing with that is she looks at me and says, "You are loved. We care about you." And that right there is huge because I've been sitting there telling myself for hours on end that I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be good enough and stuff like that. So get yourself a good social network, a support network. Get yourself a friend. Even if you have problems making friends, you can find somebody that you're close to. Because I said the same thing. I will never make good friends. You can find a good friend. Someone that will hold you accountable. And if they're not willing to, if they're piling stuff on you and not willing to let you pile on them, ditch that person because that person's only out for themselves. It's not about ourselves. It's about everyone else. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys coming and joining me tonight. Apologize for it being a little later, but life happens and I'm here. I still did it. So, all right. So I love you guys. I appreciate you guys coming. Make sure you guys go on to right down below. Hit like, subscribe, throw a comment, do whatever you need to do. If you need to ask me questions, you can hit me up on Instagram. You can hit me up on YouTube. You can hit me up on Facebook. Send me a message. I will get back to it as soon as I can. I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys for coming to hang out. See ya.